Oh, that's a good bass. That is a good bass. Get up here. Holy cow. That's why we fish topwater right there. Woo! Alright guys, so today I have an episode that's going to be a little bit different than every other episode I've done before. Today we have a verse. We're going to do one lure versus another. But wait, we're going to do 3 lures versus each other. So I guess we got ourselves a battle royale this morning. So we're going to go out and fish topwater. That's right, everyone's favorite way to fish. Definitely my favorite way to fish. When they're biting topwater, oh, that's some fun fishing right there. So we're gonna go out and fish topwater this morning, and we're gonna go out and see how well these baits do. But first I wanna introduce the 3 baits that, well, I already went and fished with. And let's start with the most expensive and work our way down to the cheapest. So at most expensive, we have the WHOPPER Plopper. And this is the WHOPPER Plopper 90. I believe this is their perch color. It's very similar to a bluegill, and that's what I wanted to get 3 baits that were like a bluegill color, so that, you know, they could, it wasn't the design, it wasn't the color that's gonna make the difference in the fish catching. The paint job on this is nice, I like it, and just let me explain to you for a second how these baits work. So this tail spins around as it's moving in the water, okay? And so as it's moving and it's spinning around, it's going brr, 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 brr. It's just chugging up little bubbles behind it, brr, 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 and it's making that bubbly sound. And so that bubbly sound and just that water getting stirred up behind it irritates bass. And when they see it, they go, oh, dang you, and they just have to hit it. So now there's days where these topwater bites just aren't there, but when they are, oh man, you can irritate some bass, and they just have to hit it. So we're hoping that that's going to be this morning, aren't we? So on to my next one, the Chapo. That's right, if you watch my videos, you know I've already fished with this once. I fished with this for the first time recently, and I lost it. And someone in the comments said, you need to go out and get 2 next time. And yeah, I'm thinking the same thing, but I'm also thinking I'm cheap. So what do? I go out and get 3. So I got myself the Chapo and the WHOPPER Plopper, and we'll have one more coming. Hold on. This one is really good. So this is $10. So the $13 WHOPPER Plopper, the $10 Chapo, and then the OZARK Trail. This guy right here, again, not a bad paint job. This one comes in less than $5. So I saw this and I was like, no way. And I saw this in Walmart, so I had to grab it, and I was definitely most curious about this one, because if we have ourselves a little $5 sleeper that costs half as much as the Chapo and like almost a third the cost of the WHOPPER Plopper, well, you know, we can stock up on these bad boys. And I already lost the Chapo once, so if I throw this into a tree, you know, it's not as big of a deal. So I was really hopeful of this, but I will show you the results now. You'll get to see how they fished. I'll show you how they did all 3 baits, and then it will cut back to me, and I will give you my my little input and things I noticed about all 3, so that if you're thinking about using one of these baits, you can make the purchase that you think is right for you. All right, let's get to the fishing. Let's see if I caught any fish topwater. All right, let's go. The OZARK Trail one tied on right now. See, OZARK Trail. And I am using fluorocarbon because it's what I have on. I prefer braid, probably even mono over fluorocarbon, just because braid floats. But if I keep my rod tip up, shouldn't be a problem. So let's see how this performs. Oh, and cast it good ways. I even thumb that a little. And with this particular bait caster, the way I have it set up, I don't always need to thumb it. So it might be because it's far away, but it doesn't sound very loud. Like
the Chapo sounds louder. That could be a good thing though. Sometimes if it's too loud, it's kind of obnoxious. Oh, oh, something's right there. Got him. Oh, I don't know if that's bad hooks or not. All right, maybe these hooks aren't very great. Also, it looks like this is already bent. It's bent down. Okay, so that metal piece of metal that runs through the middle of this to this back part, apparently that bends easily on this as well. So I'm not sure how long these are gonna last. Threw that right in front of that tall grass over there. And it's running under the water before it comes up to the top of the water. And I have the rod tip up. So I'm not exactly thrilled with how this Ozark trail's performing. Didn't look like it was really running correctly. I might even switch from this before I even catch a fish. I mean, heck, like right now, it's running underneath the water. Alright, so I haven't been fishing with the Ozark Trail very long. It's been about 20 minutes. The sun is starting to come up. I really don't want to use it any longer. My impressions of the Ozark Trail, the cheapest one, is it's the cheapest one. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch and we're going to go to the Whopper Plopper now. And let's see how well the Whopper Plopper does. All right, let's get to it. All right, so we have the Whopper Plopper here. It feels just better. It feels more solid than that Ozark Trail. All right, first cast. It feels a little smaller. I think it might actually be a little harder to cast than the Ozark Trail. Oh, but actually this is sinking just a little bit too. Not as bad as the other one. And you can hear the bubbles being stirred up behind it. You can feel the vibration of the bait. Alright, so we're at our new pond. I actually see a giant tilapia in front of us. It'd be pretty cool if they, oh, there's a couple of them. It'd be pretty cool if one of them hit, maybe defending their bed, but I wouldn't count on that. So hopefully this works a little better over here. Oh, something just hit it and missed it. Did you see that? I don't know how I missed it. I wasn't running it very fast. It might have just got defensive, and it might have even been a tilapia where it was just defending, pecking at it like I was saying they might do. I'll run this right over top of them, see if it pisses off one of them enough to grab it. Oh, that's a bass. That's a bass. Got one. Oh, nice bass. Holy cow. Oh man, dude, there's 3 tilapia there, and I was like thinking, oh look, there's a 4th one. I was like, wait, that's not a tilapia. It's a 19.5-inch bass. He's a long one, very skinny. That's definitely post spawn. All right, so nice 19.5-inch bass. Gonna put it back. The Whopper Plopper was a success. I gotta put on the Chapo. I gotta see how the Chapo does. I actually, based on how the Chapo was working for me the other day, the first time I used it, I think I like the Chapo more, but I'm glad that Whopper Plopper worked. I'm not sure that the Ozark Trail would have got a fish there, so let's move on to the Chapo. All right, so now I have the Chapo on. Oh, for starters, it feels like I can cast this one further. So it's running a little better we got a couple little isolated lily pads there, out there. And we got this tall grass looking stuff. We'll just kind of bring it by both, see if anything happens. Chapo needs to put in some work. Oh, got one right there. Caught another fish. Let's let him go. This pond right here, I caught a few fish out of here, but I haven't caught a lot of fish. I haven't caught a fish every time I've been here, just like the last place. The last place, I've been told, is a tough place to fish. It gets fished a lot. I actually was told by someone that you're the first person I've seen catch anything here, and people fish here all the time. But that last place has some big bass in it. They're a little hard to catch, but because they have big bass, I wanted to go there for this topwater. There is a big bass here. I caught on a buzz bait, so this is a similar bait, not as noisy, but I figured, you know, we'll give this a shot. All right, let's just get to fishing. There's no wind, there's no ripples, the sun's up. Probably not even a morning topwater bite anymore. Not ideal conditions. Oh, he missed it. Oh, he missed it again. That bass hit it twice and missed it. I think it was a little squirt.
Oh, that's a good bass! There's a good bass! Get up here! Holy cow!
Look at that freaking giant. Freaking giant. Get some sun on this bad boy. Let me back up. Topwater. Oh my goodness. Made me have a heart attack. I think my heart might have actually skipped a beat. I'm gonna get a measurement on this, see how long it is. And I got my scale coming today. I wish I had it. Oh well, but you know what? We are gonna get a nice measurement on this. That face is for the thumbnail. Thumbnail of this video. Alright, so this bass is 21 3/4. I gotta get him in the water for a second because I had him out of the water for a minute. Oh man, this thing is a tank. One last shot of that bad girl right there. Woo! 21 3/4. Guess what? In the national tournament that I'm in, the Mike Iaconelli tournament that's going on this week, that puts me. Oh, there's a bug on me. That puts me in 3rd place. Oh man. Let's get a release. Ugh. Look at the size of this bass. Oh my goodness.
That's why we fish topwater right there. Woo! That's gonna call it right there. That's what I wanted. I wanted a big bass today. I mean, I always want a big bass. And we try to catch them here on Real Journey. That's what we do. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. I am gonna go home and I'm gonna do a review of these. So I am gonna give my opinion and what I've noticed about these 3 baits in a minute. But I just want to say, if you're not subscribed, subscribe now, hit the notification bell, and you'll be notified every time I go fishing and every time I make one of these videos. And I catch a lot of big bass. I'm down here in Florida. We have big bass down here. All right, so let's start with the Ozark Trail. I told you we're gonna come back to me and I'm gonna give you my feedback on all 3 of these. I was the most hopeful for this one, and this one disappointed me the most. Now, there is a saying, you get what you pay for, but that's not always exactly true. For the most part, it usually is when it comes to fishing lures and fishing baits.
And it really was true for this one, unfortunately, because I really wanted this to be a good performer. I really did. And so this little split, I guess it's a split ring, this little ring up front, well, you tie to the end of this on the other two. This is the only one with this ring up front. So I tied to this ring because it's there, and there was a couple times where it just wasn't even running correctly. And I was just pulling it back to me, and I was like, it must be that ring up front because it should be coming back to me. It's the only one of the three that did that. So that was definitely disappointing. As far as that propeller, and it goes brr, 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 the sound on this was non-existent. And I mean, it was just like it was just moving a little bit of water, and it wasn't adding anything to it. That was really disappointing. And then in here, you can actually pull this back. It has a little bit of wiggle room. You can actually see the wire that comes from this end to this end, and it's a skinny one. And there was actually a couple times where this bottom part, you can see it bends easily, where I actually bent it back while I was fishing. Mind you, I only fished with this for like 20 minutes. Oh, my hat just fell down. I only fished with this for like 20 minutes or so, and I found myself bending it back in place. It was, I was using fluorocarbon. All three of these would sink under the water a little bit, at least sometimes, because of that fluorocarbon. But you just put your rod tip up and you reel in, and it comes back fine. And so, yeah, this didn't always come back. It stayed under the water. Like, I don't even know if I'd consider this quite a topwater bait, and that is how it's advertised. It's a topwater prop bait, and it didn't really run top water. So, and then I had an actual bite, an actual fish that grabbed this, and I pulled it out of its mouth, and it kind of slingshot. Like, I actually felt the weight of the fish. It came out of the fish's mouth. Honestly, the hooks feel like they should stick a fish. They do. They feel just almost as good as the other two. The other two definitely feel like they're really good baits. Like, it's sticky on the end there. I didn't expect to lose a fish, but that was the one bite I had. That fish waked on this, and it grabbed it, and I went to pull it out, and I thought I pulled it out early. I thought that was on me at the moment, but, you know, that big bass nailed the dang Chapo, and I pulled that sucker out the water. I was not playing with him, and those hooks handled that giant fish just fine. He was stuck all up in his mouth. So I don't know. Honestly, I just felt like this had nothing going for it. Like, nothing at all. Like, if you only have $5 and you're dying to throw this bait, I think I would just save up and get a different one. Like, I wouldn't even spend the $5 on it. And honestly, I think Ozark Trail has a couple baits that, you know, they're priced better than any other bait in their category. And I feel like they have a couple baits that aren't bad for the price. You know, you can get better ones for more money, of course, but they're not bad for their price. And I hope that this was the case, but I think this was just a dud for them. I don't think it works well at all. It's not any good. It sucks. It just does. It sucks. So I spent too much time talking about this, but you all need to know it has a lot of flaws, and I would not recommend it, period. It sucks. Now, down to the last two. I'll tell you right now, I'd fish with either one of these. And, I mean, I have both of them, and they both work, so I will be fishing with both of these. Now, I'll cut to the chase, and I'll tell you that I felt the Chapo was a little better. So, I threw the Whopper Plopper second, and I caught a nice long bass, and I probably didn't use this very long. I used it at the first pond for like 10 minutes, and then I used it at the second pond for about 10 minutes, and I caught that one bass. I could have caught more bass with this, I believe, and it's it's a good bait, okay? But I also say this casted probably the least distance. I don't know, like, they feel like they're very similar baits as far as weight. I mean, they're similar size. I don't know why. This just didn't seem to go through the air quite as well. It felt like it was, you know, like I was casting this one about 8 feet farther than this. You know, I mean, it's not a huge deal, but at the same time, like, you could notice a little bit of a difference. I could with how I had my setup set up, and it just seemed like this casted a little bit further. The other thing is, this went under the water a few more times than I would have liked in that 20 minutes I used it. And again, I'm using fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon sinks. It's preferred to use like braid and maybe even mono, something that floats. But this did go underwater a couple times, and I was like, okay, like it went, and this went underwater once or twice, but this went underwater a handful of times, you know. So I was like, not crazy about that. And then also this one right here, it wasn't making a very loud like it was like I've seen tests online with these two, and I thought they were very similar. I did not notice that they were that similar. The Chapo seemed a lot louder with its So the Whopper Plopper to me, so I ended up using the Chapo for the longest amount of time. I used it last. The reason I was using it last is because I've already used this before. I've caught a couple bass before. And so I wanted to give them a chance. So I fished them in what I'd consider the best morning bite time frame. And then I put this one on in what I consider, you know, not as good of a time frame to fish. But if I didn't catch a fish with this, it's not a big deal. I already know if I know how these feel with fish and I know how this feels with fish, then I can still make the comparison. Now, I end up throwing this around, and I didn't want to switch back to the Whopper Plopper. Ow, those hooks just got me. I mean, it really did brr, 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 brr. Like, it had a nice loud blah, blah, blah behind it, and oh man, you know, if you want a more subtle blah, 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 blah behind your bait, then the Whopper Plopper might be the way to go. And I don't know if there's any factors as far as, you know, when it's running up on top of the water level better, like with braid, the Whopper Plopper sounds almost as loud. You know, it was because you're using fluorocarbon. You know, I can't tell you something like that. I don't think that made a difference. This one definitely floated the best. I would throw it out there and I would let it sit. I would let the little waves, because when it hits the water, it creates these little waves. I would let them disappear or dissipate, and then give the bass a chance to come over and look at it and go, what was that? And they can come in and see it, and then I'd start to move it. With these other baits, when I did that and I let it sit, they would run underneath the water before they would come up and then be running on top of the water. This only did that once or twice, okay? And I fished with this for a long time in the morning because I didn't want to put it down. It was just running so much nicer than these other two. And so I didn't want to put it down, and it was running well, and it stayed on top of the water, you know? And honestly, I didn't expect the Whopper Plopper to do that. I mean, granted, it's not meant to be fished that way, but it does show you that this floats better than the Whopper Plopper, and it makes a better noise than the Whopper Plopper. Now, see, I don't really like fishing a buzzbait. I think it's too obnoxious. There's a time that it works. Sure, definitely. Oh, you can catch the biggest bass of your life on a buzzbait, no doubt. But at the same time, like if I'm going out and fishing and I have a certain amount of time to fish, I'm going to get less bites on a buzzbait than other baits is what I usually feel like. And buzzbaits are really obnoxious across the top of the water. So I was thinking, you know, you might want the Whopper Plopper over the Chapo because it has less, you know, brr, 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 brr behind it. You might want a more subtle blah, 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 blah. And so I was actually fishing this slower for a while. And when you fish it slow, it doesn't make as much of a brr, 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 brr. So I was thinking, all right, so this might be the ticket. Just fish it slow, get a nice little blah, 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 blah. And then I was thinking, you know what? If I'm going to get a bass to hit this, and right now the topwater bite, that morning bite, that window is probably over with. If I'm going to get a bite on this, I'm probably going to irritate a bass. So I made a couple casts where I just, brr, 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 brr. I ran it fast enough that it really made that noise. And sure enough, that's when that big bass came up and just nailed this. And dude, this handled that big bass like a champ. Dude, the second it hit it, pulled my rod down, I set the hook, and I don't play around with these big bass. If you watch my videos, I have braid that, I have line on that's strong enough. I have my drag almost cinched all the way down, and I set the hook on these bass, and I put them on land or in the boat. I don't play around with them, and that's exactly what I did to that bass. And these treble hooks, handle that like a champ. So I would if I had to rank the best one as a 10 out of 10, I would say the Chapo is a 10 out of 10. I would say this is about an 8.5 out of 10, and I don't even know, like a 2.5 for the Ozark Trail, if that. So this actually isn't the most expensive one, and I feel like it outperformed this one. You know, I mean, so take it how you want it. The Whopper Plopper might be right for you for the reasons I said it worked well. The Chapo might, you know, be the ticket for you for the reasons that I think I like it the most. And so that's going to be the video. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell. We put out great content all the time, and we catch big old bass as much as we can, you know, but pretty often actually, because we're down here in Florida where the big bass live. Alright, so hope you subscribe, hope you hit the notification bell, and we'll catch you later. Peace.